The world has always been filled with noise. Voices rising and falling, words spilling over one another like waves in a storm. Every generation has been marked by its own language, its own symbols, its own way of speaking. Yet amid all the sound, there is one question that has never changed what is true. Because it is not how loud we speak, nor how beautifully we arrange our sentences, but whether our words are carriers of truth. The tongue may shape the sound, but truth shapes the soul. Every person holds within them a message waiting to be spoken. The tongue is simply the key that opens the door, but the message within is what gives that opening meaning. The tragedy of many lives is that their tongues move faster than their hearts. People speak, but they do not say anything that touches eternity. They express opinions, repeat what others say, echo what is fashionable. But truth, deep, unshakable, divine truth is missing. A voice without truth is like a drum without rhythm, noisy but hollow. When truth reigns in the heart, the tongue becomes its servant, not its master. It does not seek applause or attention, it seeks impact. It does not fear the judgment of men, because it speaks with the authority of conviction. Words born from truth pierce through the layers of deceit and self-deception that cloak humanity. They awaken the conscience, stir the spirit, and remind us of who we truly are. The greatest power of speech does not lie in cleverness, but in sincerity. Truth is timeless. It does not bend to the trends of culture or the pressure of opinion. It may be resisted, silenced, or ignored, but it cannot be destroyed. Even when spoken softly, truth has a resonance that travels beyond the moment. Every prophet, every reformer, every visionary who changed history understood this. The tongue is a tool, but truth is the fire that fuels it. Without that fire, the tongue grows cold. Without that conviction, words lose their power. When we speak truth, we participate in something divine. The Creator himself spoke, and worlds were formed. The universe began not with movement, but with a word, and that word was truth. From the beginning, language has been sacred. It was never meant to be a weapon of deceit, but a bridge between hearts, a channel of revelation. Yet how easily the tongue can turn against its purpose. With one word, peace can be broken. With another, hope can be restored. That is why the tongue, though small, holds great responsibility. Truth has a voice that transcends language. You may speak in tongues of men or angels, but if the spirit behind those words lacks love, sincerity, and righteousness, they become empty noise. The Apostle Paul understood this well, that speech without truth is powerless, that sound without spirit is lifeless. Our world is full of voices that speak loudly but say nothing lasting. Yet one word of truth can silence the storm. Truth is not always comfortable. It does not flatter, it refines. It demands honesty, humility, and courage. To speak truth is to stand against falsehood, even when falsehood is popular. It means to let your tongue become an instrument of light in a world that often prefers shadows. Many fear truth because it exposes. It uncovers what lies beneath the surface, what the heart tries to hide. But that very exposure is healing. Only when truth is spoken can transformation begin. When you carry truth within you, your words carry authority that no position or title can grant. You do not need to raise your voice to be heard. The integrity of your message will give your words weight. The tongue, when guided by truth, becomes a vessel of divine power. It speaks life into death, hope into despair, peace into confusion. But when it strays from truth, it becomes a weapon of destruction, capable of wounding even those it claims to love. The discipline of the tongue begins with the discipline of the heart. What you speak reveals who you are. A pure heart speaks pure words. A deceived heart breeds deception. It is not the polish of speech that makes it powerful, but the purity of motive behind it. The tongue may deceive others for a time, but truth always outlasts lies. It may be buried under falsehood, but it will rise again. There is a spiritual Lord work. Whatever is born of truth carries life. Words that are rooted in sincerity carry a presence that cannot be imitated. They create, they restore, they uplift. Every time you speak truth, you align yourself with eternity. You become a vessel through which divine purpose flows. That is why it is not enough to know how to speak. You must know what you are speaking and why. The world does not need more talkers. It needs messengers. The tongue is merely the brush, but truth is the color. The beauty of a painting does not come from the brush alone. It comes from the artist's vision and the colors that fill the canvas. In the same way, your speech becomes beautiful when it paints with the colors of truth, compassion, humility, and faith. When these fill your words, even silence becomes powerful because it carries meaning. Every revival, every movement of the Spirit, every awakening begins when tongues are surrendered to truth. When people stop speaking for themselves and start speaking for what is right, transformation follows. That is when communication becomes communion, when language becomes more than sound, when it becomes spirit and life. A single sentence of truth, spoken with conviction, can move mountains that centuries of rhetoric could not touch. So let every word be weighed before it is spoken. Let your tongue serve truth, not ego. Let your message be more than mere language. Let it be a revelation of what is eternal. Because tongues are symbols, they represent the power to express. But truth is the message. It is the heartbeat of creation, the breath of God in human speech. And when you let your tongue become a channel of that truth, your words will not just be heard, they will live. Truth is not fragile, it does not tremble before doubt or opposition. It stands firm in silence and speaks even when no one is listening. A person who carries truth walks with quiet confidence because truth needs no defense. It shines by its own nature. The tongue may twist words and deceit may wear the mask of wisdom, but sooner or later, truth reveals itself. Time itself becomes the servant of truth, for it has a way of unveiling what lies hidden beneath pretense. Every false word will eventually crumble under the weight of what is real. There are tongues that speak for applause and tongues that speak for purpose. Applause fades, purpose endures. When a man or woman speaks from truth, there is a power that no amount of eloquence can imitate. It is the power of authenticity, the force of a heart aligned with eternal principles. The world may not always understand such speech, but it feels it. The human soul recognizes truth instinctively. It resonates with something deep within, something that has been waiting to awaken. That is why one sentence of truth can change the direction of a life. Many speak without thinking, few speak with understanding. The tongue that rushes to express without reflection often betrays the heart's confusion. But the one who pauses, listens, and allows truth to take root before speaking becomes a voice of clarity in a noisy world. Silence is not weakness, it is preparation. When the heart listens to truth before the tongue moves, every word becomes a seed with power to grow. A single truthful word planted in the soil of sincerity can bear fruit for generations. There is a spiritual harmony between truth and speech. When their joined language becomes alive, words no longer merely describe reality, they shape it. They breathe life into ideas, relationships, and dreams. That is the mystery of divine communication. When the tongue carries truth, it carries creation. The ancient prophets did not speak because they were wise or educated. They spoke because they were filled with truth. Their tongues became vessels of divine intention. And so, centuries later, their words still burn with relevance. But when speech becomes detached from truth, it becomes manipulation. Words can be used to build empires or enslave minds. History is filled with those who used their tongues to twist reality, to turn lies into laws and falsehood into faith. Such power is dangerous, for it blinds and binds. Yet even then, truth waits. It may be buried under the rubble of rhetoric, but it never dies. Sooner or later, it breaks through, just as light breaks through the cracks of a long night. To speak truth is to serve freedom. Every lie creates bondage, but every word of truth loosens chains. That is why truth has always been feared by tyrants and resisted by the proud. It cannot be controlled. It cannot be silenced. It moves through generations, transforming hearts long after the speaker is gone. The tongue that carries truth does not need power, because truth itself is power. No weapon, no argument, no slander can destroy what is real. To live truthfully is harder than to speak truthfully. Many can recite truths, but few embody them. The tongue may say one thing while the life speaks another, but when the two become one, when a person's words match their actions, their speech gains authority. People do not follow mere words, they follow integrity. The most persuasive message is not spoken through the mouth, but through consistent living. The tongue can only echo what the heart lives out daily. There is beauty in simplicity, and truth is the essence of simplicity. It does not need adornment or exaggeration. A simple truth spoken clearly has more weight than 1,000 clever arguments. The tongue must learn humility to carry truth, for arrogance corrupts even the purest message. Pride uses words to elevate self, but truth uses words to enlighten others. The greatest communicators are not those who dominate conversation, but those who allow truth to speak through them. When the tongue becomes the servant of truth, it gains divine purpose. Every word becomes an act of creation, a bridge between heaven and earth. There is power in speech that is guided by conscience and conviction. It brings peace where there was conflict, understanding where there was confusion, and light where there was darkness. That kind of speech does not merely inform, it transforms. It does not just reach the mind, it touches the soul. There will always be moments when speaking truth costs something. It may cost popularity, comfort, or acceptance. But silence in the face of falsehood is a slow betrayal. The courage to speak truth is the measure of spiritual maturity. The tongue was not given to flatter, but to declare. When it trembles in fear, truth grows silent. When it trembles in conviction, truth roars. The world does not change through agreeable words, but through courageous ones. The more the heart is purified, the more powerful the tongue becomes. A pure heart cannot lie, because truth becomes its native language. It speaks not from emotion, but from revelation. And revelation is always rooted in reality. Not the reality of what is seen, but of what is eternal. Truth is the language of eternity. Those who learn to speak it align their lives with something far greater than themselves. They become vessels of divine wisdom, bearers of light in a generation often lost in shadows. Every time you open your mouth, you reveal a part of your inner world. The tongue cannot hide what the heart holds. If the heart is filled with love, the tongue will speak healing. If it is filled with bitterness, the tongue will spread poison. That is why the purification of speech begins with the cleansing of the soul. Truth must first dwell within before it can flow outward. When the heart is filled with truth, speech becomes an offering, not an argument. To speak truthfully is to partner with eternity in the moment. It is to allow divine reality to express itself through human language. The tongue, though small, becomes a mighty instrument when guided by integrity. It can lift the fallen, comfort the broken, and awaken the sleeping. It can create faith where doubt once ruled. Every word of truth spoken in love is like a spark that ignites light in the darkness. It may seem small, but it carries infinite potential. And so, the journey of every soul is to bring the tongue under the authority of truth, to let what is spoken mirror what is real, to let the voice become a channel through which wisdom flows freely. The goal is not merely to speak more, but to speak rightly. Not to impress, but to express what is eternal. The tongue is the symbol, but truth. Truth is the message that endures beyond time, beyond speech, beyond self. Every tongue carries the potential to change the atmosphere around it. Words are invisible, yet their power is undeniable. They shape emotions, shift minds, and determine destinies. When truth governs the tongue, that power becomes sacred. It no longer exists for manipulation or pride, but for transformation. A truthful word can calm storms in the soul, reconcile enemies, and restore the dignity of those who have been broken by lies. There is healing in truth, not always easy, not always gentle, but always pure. Truth does not shout to be heard. It stands quietly and endures. It does not compete with deception because it knows that time will always reveal its strength. The tongue, however, must be trained to wait for truth to speak. Too many voices fill the world with noise, with opinions disguised as wisdom, with rhetoric that dazzles but deceives. The disciplined tongue knows that silence can be holier than speech when the heart is not yet ready to deliver truth. To speak too soon is to risk wounding the very truth one hopes to express. There is something divine about speech that carries integrity. It resonates beyond intellect and touches the spirit. It awakens faith in those who have forgotten hope. It brings clarity to those lost in confusion. When a person speaks from the deep well of truth, listeners sense it. They may not understand why, but their hearts lean in. That is the mark of speech guided by truth. It connects beyond logic, reaching the eternal part of every listener. The tongue is a small instrument, but it is the gateway to the unseen. Through it, faith is declared, promises are made, and destinies are sealed. The power of creation that once spoke worlds into being still echoes in human language when it is aligned with truth. But every lie distorts creation, but every truthful word restores it. To speak truth, then, is to cooperate with the Creator Himself, to bring order out of chaos, light out of darkness. A tongue filled with truth is fearless. It does not bend before power or bow before deceit. It speaks with quiet certainty, knowing that truth, though resisted, can never be defeated. The greatest voices in history were not those who spoke to please, but those who spoke to reveal. They understood that tongues are symbols, temporary instruments. But truth is the eternal message that lives long after every voice has fallen silent. So let every tongue rise not as an echo of the world's confusion, but as a voice of divine truth. Let your words carry light in a time of shadows, and let honesty become your language, even when silence feels safer. The power of your speech does not lie in its sound, but in its sincerity. For when truth becomes your message, heaven itself stands behind your voice. Tongues will fade, applause will cease, but truth will remain, unshaken, undefeated, eternal. Speak it boldly, live it wholly, and let your life become the message the world can never forget.